What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Uh, got a snowstorm rolling through here in North Carolina, which means I get a day off of work. At least a day off from working a real job, but I get to put more work here in the garage. It also means more time freezing my ass off because I don't have an insulated garage, and I've only got a tiny little personal space heater from like Walmart or something. But anyway, I'm gonna make the most of it, try to get as much done as I can before the snow starts rolling in. Oh yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that shit that you're supposed to do for YouTube videos. Yeah, don't wait, go ahead and do that now. Just click real quick. So as you can see, we got our oil pan back for the LS. LS acceleration, super easy to get a hold of, work with. Zach King out there really helped out, stayed in touch with me through the whole process, let me know what was going on. I told him that, hey, I'm trying to make a deadline for a YouTube video. He was super on board with it, made sure I got it, that they sent the oil pan out the same day they got the old one back. But as far as fixing it goes, I think they just dropped the helicoil in there. For me, I would have preferred to get a new pan that's actually tapped for the right thing, but it's not the end of the world. Helicoils work just fine, and it's just the oil drain plug. What we are gonna do is start getting the valve train built. I had most of it from Texas Speed, got it a long time ago before we ever started on the rotating assembly. But I went and got the last of it. Finally got my hands on a set of ARP head studs. These things are stupid expensive. I mean, you pay for quality, but shit, they're expensive. Much cheaper on the TJ. Also got a Trunnion upgrade kit from Brian Tooley Racing. I debated long and hard on whether or not I was going to upgrade the rocker arms altogether, or just upgrade the Trunnion kit, or just run with the stock rocker arms. After talking to Texas Speed, and they said stock rocker arm ratio is fine, stock lifters are fine. I did get brand new OEM lifters as well. So we should be good to go for that power level. They even gave me some tips on turbo sizing for the twins to make sure that we get the goal we want to make. Anyway, first up is we're going to go ahead and replace those old bearings, or the old trunnions from the rocker arms, throw in the new ones from Brian Tooley, then start slapping together all those nice Texas Speed components to go inside the cylinder head. Okay, so the way this is supposed to work is pretty simple. Basically what we're going to do is on a press, well, first off, what we're going to do is we're going to press out these bearings. Brian Tooley recommends that you use a 22 mil half-inch socket. I don't have a 22 half-inch socket, at least not a short one. I've got a tall one, and I don't feel like adjusting my press, so I'm going to use a 7/8 3/8 inch drive socket. Then we're going to take our flat side of our rocker arm, center it up on there. Gonna take a 13 mil, center it up on the bearing, and then we're gonna let the press come down and just kind of press that out. So, and we're gonna be doing that right over there. So it's gonna be the same setup over there, and we'll pop them out. Well, for anyone wondering what the bearings look like on an LS Trunnion, well, it's your typical needle bearing on both ends of the trunnion. So inside this housing, which is basically this housing, you see the needle bearings in there. They sit just like this inside of that housing, sit along the cap like that. These are your needles. You can see just basically they roll along those needles. Those needles roll inside of that housing, and that's your bearing. So yeah, there's your shitty garage, I guess, mechanical lesson, science lesson for you guys. You probably already knew it, but if you don't, now you know. Okay, so next up, we're going to do the upgrades to the trunnions. I got this kit here from Brian Tooley. Yep, I got this kit from Brian Tooley. You see, I've already done most of the rockers because I was trying to beat the cold weather. But I did leave one to kind of show you guys what it's like. So yeah, this is part number. Yeah. Anyway, it's the Brian Tooley TK002 V2 kit or whatever. So boom, this is how it's gonna go. Grab our bearings. Now get the camera to focus. There's writing on one side, that side needs to be out. Set that in there. Bring this over to the press. Level that. Now that we're flush, you saw that kind of stick. It does have grease on it for packing. So we got a trunnion. Flip this over. Oh, one thing I did want to note. The reason why we're upgrading the trunnions, or why the V2 is kind of like the go-to kit for me, you see it's got holes right there for oiling versus the stock ones. Camera focus. The stock ones don't have any oiling holes. So I'm gonna slide that in there. There. Pull that bearing cap off. Get our spacer. Grab our next bearing. It's difficult to do with one hand. Anyway, you get the point. Slide that bearing on, pull that cap off. I'm gonna do that. Okay, now the instructions say to do this on a cutout. You want to cut it around the base so that the bearing can press through on one end as you're getting the other end flush. I don't have a good enough cutout. But what I found works, using an 18 mil socket. You have one of these washers on the bottom end, which is that level right there. Put one of these centered on top on the bearing. And now when we push it down, it should give the bearing or the trunnion end plenty of room to clear through. If you don't get it all the way through, you might find that it binds up. The trunnion and the rock arm kind of bind. Now that we flush, boom. Next step, add a retaining plate to it. See if the camera will pick it up. You can barely see it. The edge of the trunnion has a groove on it. And that's gonna be where the snap ring sits, right there. I found that using straight ends versus 90 on your snap ring pliers makes a world of difference. I definitely can't do this one hand, so I'm just gonna drop the snap rings on there. All right, so snap rings are in on both sides. It's a little stiffness to the trunnion just because of that packing grease or whatever kind of grease they use. The instructions don't say to remove that grease, so I'm not going to. Hopefully the oil will just flush it out eventually. as you can see, we moved back into the garage because, well, I've got 5 kids and their favorite pastime has got to be just screaming their heads off in the middle of me trying to record stuff. So, despite it being pretty freaking cold out in this garage, got my little space heater down here, and we're gonna try to knock this out inside the garage. It's only 30 degrees outside now, but it's supposed to get a lot colder tomorrow and into this weekend, so I really want to get this knocked out before that rolls in. So yeah, I guess we're definitely on a clock. So here's what we have going on. We're gonna drop our valve springs, retainers, and valve locks. I'm gonna drop those in, put them down. Then we should be able to throw the rocker arm, the bar for where the rocker arms sit. Put it in trunnions in with the upgraded trunnion kit. Valve train is all Texas speed aside from the trunnion upgrade. And we're going to use the same valve locks we had because we're using the same valves that we had. But yeah, other than that, everything else brand new in the cylinder head. Yes, we are going to be upgrading to new valves at some point, but we're going to wait until we do the new cylinder heads before we do that. Because when we do the new valves, we're going to have to do new valve guides and everything. And I'm not going to put new valve guides into old cylinder heads that I don't plan on keeping. I don't know, call me weird, whatever. So yeah, let's get this done, see what we got. So we got all the valves and springs and everything into the heads now. Again, I am reusing the same old 706 heads. I gave a small little hand port on them. Reused the valves, reused the keepers, really just changed out the springs, retainers, and seals. As I mentioned before, we are planning on switching to new CNC ported heads at some point, which is why I didn't replace the valves or the keepers, because in order to do new valves, I'm gonna need new keepers and new guides. And I'm not gonna put new guides into old heads. Anyway, you guys saw the little tool that I had to put the valve springs in, or the valve spring compressor. This is one I got off of Amazon, and yeah, I kind of got mixed feelings about it. So on the one hand, it did work. We got everything in there, but the directions didn't line up. The way that it's illustrated on the directions and the way that it actually gets assembled on the heads are completely different. You kind of have to finagle, wiggle the springs around a little bit to get them to line up and compress evenly. Once I got going though, I was able to hit a good rhythm and get the springs put in just fine. If I had to do it again, knowing that I plan on doing more LS engines in the future, and that I'm gonna have to pull these springs back out at some point, I probably would have gone ahead and spent the money on something like comp cams or BTR or the ProForm stuff, just for that little added assurance. But if I was only going to do this once and not touch LS stuff again, or at least not with any real frequency, then yeah, you can make do with this. And this was $35 versus paying like $135 for some of the other ones. Anyway, now we're going to go ahead and get these out of the way. We're going to pull our engine out, and we're going to start dropping in some lifters, because like I said at the beginning of the video, by the end of this, these heads are going to be on the block, and we're going to have a complete long block just waiting on our manifold and our valley cover.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Alright guys, so in classic me fashion, I was not fully prepared to finish this job today. I thought I had everything, but it turns out I never picked up the dowel pins to put the head back on the block. So I got two choices. I could either end the video here and just break this up into two videos, and they'll probably be shorter videos, or I'll make it into one video and we just have to wait a little bit longer to put it out. Either way, I'll figure it out once we're in editing. So either that's a wrap for this video, or I'll see you in the next cutaway scene.